This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Forget everything you think you know about Jolteon right now. Just zap! Poof! Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Is it a fox? No. Jolteon is a bug. I'm serious. First of all, Jolteon learns the bug-type move Pin Missile. In fact, Pin Missile is incredibly important to its design. Back in Gen 1, it was pretty uncommon for Pokemon to learn moves that were not their own type or normal type, unless that move is particularly important to its overall design. Jolteon learns Agility and Double Kick too, but that's because it's fast. So what's Pin Missile doing here then? Clearly, Jolteon is an insect. A bug.
What kind of thinking is a bug? You stupid?
No, I'm just desperate for a hooky intro. The bug thing's not really true, but... So hey, you wanna know something funny? This video is sponsored by Squarespace, where you can put together your own website to promote you, your portfolio, your business, whatever you need, and they wanted me to show off a site I build using it, but the thing is, I already have one! It's Gnoggin.net, our merch store, where I sell things pretty regularly. Building this site was super easy, and also setting it up as an online storefront was also super easy, and that's what I like about Squarespace, its ease of use. Gnoggin.net was like not even a day project, and that's thanks mainly to their best-in-class website templates, like literally swap out the text and images and boom, a whole new professional looking site. Go to squarespace.com and get a free trial to build your site, and then head to squarespace.com/Lockstin to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with the code Lockstin. That's what I did years ago, except I didn't have my own link back then. Jolteon's cells generate a low level of electricity. This power is amplified by the static electricity in its fur, enabling the Pokemon to drop thunderbolts. The bristling fur is made of electrically charged needles. If it is angered or startled, the fur all over its body bristles like sharp needles that pierce foes. Oh. Do you ever see a Jolteon that doesn't have its fur currently in sharp, spiky needle shapes? Poor thing, it's always startled or angered. It's got anxiety. It's like a shaky chihuahua just feigning anger, but it's just scared. Scared that it's alive.
I know what can help it. Oh, Jolteon.
Well, hey, while I have you here, listen to Jolteon's breath.
Nope. I'm leaving. No time for furry fantasies. I've got bones to pick.
It's not furry stuff. It's scientific, I swear. Here's a Pokedex entry. Jolteon's lungs contain an organ that creates electricity. The crackling sound of electricity can be heard when it exhales. Oh God, I'd hate to try and sleep while one is in the room. Just... I really do enjoy the lore Game Freak has been adding lately. Even when the Pokedex entries sort of retcon previous Dex entries, it's framed not as a retcon or just forgetting past Pokedex entries, but rather, it's all framed as Pokemon professors gaining a new understanding of how things work. It's science. Once upon a time, all the Pokemon scientists knew was that it has cells that can produce electricity, but now they know that it's an organ in the lungs, and they probably figured that out by studying the thing's breath. And that's not random. Electro-lungs do make some sense. Oh yeah, this is a science video. Put as simply as I can, one of the easiest ways to create electricity is to have a difference in particle charges. Atoms like being neutral, but their bodies are made up of neutrons, which are neutral, and protons, which are charged positively. They balance that out by having electrons orbit them, which are charged negatively. Balancing out that charge, most of the time, is kind of what they want to do always. But you see, as things move around and rub up against one another, energy gets transferred around. Easiest example is the balloon experiment. This isn't a balloon, but I don't want to buy one. But if you rub a balloon on your head over and over again, you're giving it energy. You're disturbing that balance. Your hair is pulling some of the electrons away from that balloon, and since it doesn't have enough negatively charged electrons, it is now positively charged. Meanwhile, my hair has too many electrons, making it negatively charged, and opposites attract. So now when the balloon and hair are close enough, the hair kind of floats towards the balloon. The particles want to become neutral again and are reaching for it. Please, can I have some more? And sometimes they balance out all at once, which is what causes that shock from static electricity. This process is happening all the time, everywhere, because things move. And biology is super cool and has taken advantage of this fact of life. And our cells are constantly using micro imbalances to move things around in our bodies, and even allow certain things to pass through cell walls. A stimulated cell will allow positively charged particles to just enter itself, like walking through a wall, as long as that wall is an open ion channel, thus making it positively charged, which triggers an electrical current, which it can then turn into electrical pulses, which it can use to send signals to other parts of the body rapidly. And it does these with electrolytes. Potassium, sodium, calcium, etc. Your body needs these to perform even the most basic of functions, because that's how it best creates those electrical imbalances to then fix suddenly and send signals. It's all just so cool. Oh! And of course, there's the famous electric eel, as well as a few other animals that take this same process with electrolytes and everything and just multiply it greatly in special organs to achieve enough charge for them to be able to actively use electricity. So then just multiply that ability by injecting some fantasy media, and Jolteon isn't all that strange. I love science. Another Dex entry talks about it accumulating negative ions in the atmosphere to blast out 10,000 volt lightning bolts. And that's pretty legit. Not so much that number though. Numbers like this don't really mean anything. We did a whole video about that here. But it's these ions that create the charge imbalance. It's able to breathe those in and store them in its electro lung sac. And actually, it being in the lungs makes sense too. One of the main reasons our bodies rely on oxygen so heavily is just because of how reactive it is to so many things. I mean, have you seen water and potassium? Hydrogen only has one electron, and oxygen, being the nice guy that he is, comes over and steals it. How polite. Boom, you made water. And actually, electrolysis is the process of splitting water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen via an electric current. Though we're kind of trying to make an electric current, not use one, so I'm not sure if that could be what Jolteon uses. But maybe Jolteon uses its naturally occurring current to store hydrogen to then later use as a sort of energy for its larger attacks. In fact, the whole hydrogen-oxygen reaction is what many people think are going to power future cars, with the only byproduct being water. No more pumping poison into the air, it's just mostly clean water. You just have to filter it a little bit. And technically, we already have the basics of this technology down, but people keep voting for oil executives to personally kill polar bears and minorities, so there isn't enough funding to really further the technology yet. But anyway, that could be how Jolteon produces its electricity. I mean, it's in or near the lungs, so it's got access to oxygen and carbon dioxide. All it would need is either some way to compress the oxygen or create hydrogen without being a huge factory. Or it could just be magic. Hydrogen isn't even the craziest way of making electricity. I mean, we all know about fossil fuels, which are incorrectly stated as liquid dinosaurs. I mean, technically some of it could theoretically be dinosaur, but most of it is ancient plants. But other ways are still way crazier, like stealing from the force field of air created by the magnetic field flux of the rotation of the Earth's iron core, which is in turn heated and cooled by the sun's heat, creating differences in pressure and movement. Hey, can I get that in English, please? Wind. Yeah, I meant to say wind. Heck, a hamster wheel is technically a bioenergy source. It's just not that great because bodies are very inefficient. Other weird ways include just getting it back from spent energy. That's right, cogeneration. It's when wasted heat from electricity generation is used for other means, normally heating, because it's already heat. That would take care of the most difficult part for Jolteon here, changing energy from one state to another. Not state, more like type? Like Pokemon type? You got your chemical type, like the hamster that eats food and turns them into chemicals and then converts those chemicals into the kinetic energy with the wheel. Then you have electric potential, like a bowling ball placed up on a shelf. It has all the energy of a falling bowling ball, but it's trapped by the shelf. Once you remove the shelf, you make kinetic energy. But back to the hamster. We have chemical to kinetic, as it's moving its little legs that are powered by the food that it digests via its stomach. And those foodstuffs gained their energy by absorbing the sun's powerful rays and then turning them into usable energy via photosynthesis. And the sun gets its energy from basically exploding. Just so much, all the time. Technically, almost all of the energy on Earth comes from the sun, so even Jolteon is technically solar powered. What if it's just breathing the sun? The only problem is that every time the energy is exchanged, it gets less efficient. So there's the sun, which is like 100% energy. And then there's the plant, which is able to store that energy as sugars and such, but it can't store all of it because it has to use some of that energy to not die. Sort of a vital part of living. The same goes for animals. The animal eats the plant, and the animal uses that plant energy to energize itself, and also to store it, and also to not die. So then the animals that eat those animals, you see where this is going. There's a reason most of the livestock we eat are herbivores. It'd just be so inefficient to like eat tigers. Where was I going with this? As you move up the food chain, you're getting less and less energy. So animals with magic powers would need something other than food. I think that's where I was going with this. The organ in its lungs could possibly work as a crank, a tiny wheel in a little electric sac. It's got like wind turbines in there, so it collects ions from the air while also just spinning. I mean, it has to breathe anyway, so why not also generate electricity at the same time? And that spins a little doohickey or vibrates a little doohickey, and that little doohickey's got kinetic energy, and then it stores it because it's magic. It's like a hybrid car charging its batteries by braking. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Jolteon. Jolteon, 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 Jolteon. No more talk of energy and electricity and explosions in the sky. Back to Pokemon, full stop. The Dex talks about how it uses the sac in conjunction with its static electricity that it just builds up on its spines. And it could be that it uses its static to become extremely charged negatively to attract lightning, thus charging itself with the powers of Mother Nature. But actually, we live in the future, though it's becoming more and more like the past. But very recently, we, as in scientists, not me, have figured out how to make energy from thin air. That's right. You see, there's this bacteria that we've known about for a while now, and it does some crazy stuff. Part of the Geobacter family, G. sulfur-reducens. Sulfur-reducens? It's a bacteria that can produce electrically conductive protein nanowires. Crazy stuff. Anyways, scientists have used the nanowires to essentially make a miniature generator. I am not kidding when I say mini. It measures about 7 micrometers thick. You know how small that is? That's 0.00276 inches. That number also doesn't help. Your average strand of hair is 75 micrometers, so it's as thick as 1/10 of a hair. And here's how it works. Essentially, it absorbs water vapor that naturally exists in the atmosphere, and then it creates energy via a moisture gradient that creates a difference of protons over the nanowire. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to read the whole study because of scientific journals costing way too much for a casual like me, but what I gathered in essence via the summary is that the nanowire makes electricity because of the differences in the protons that are spread across a long distance, gaining energy from the humidity in the air. So if we were to take this and make it on a macro scale, we could get generators that would be perfect for places that solar panels don't work too reliably. And also, because of this, it's totally viable that a creature with magical powers could have some sort of super complex arrangement of all of these nanowires in an organ in its lungs, and with every breath it's able to get new, humid oxygen to that surface area. It's just like how we all have a microbiome of good bacteria in our guts that let us digest food. Without them, we couldn't digest. We have a symbiotic relationship with them that we require to live. And Jolteon, I guess, just has a whole other part with a wholly unique kind of microbiome. Maybe. Technically theoretical, but you know, that's the thing that makes the most sense to me. And on top of that, all the just static electricity that it builds up on its quills, that's just a bonus. And come to think of it, I guess that explanation with the bacteria could just explain electric-type Pokemon as a whole, but the whole lung organ thing is pretty unique and strange, and I like strange things. I hope you do too. It's the perfect excuse to subscribe.